I have a long-lasting contact with clay. Whether I have gone for somewhere for visiting or doing my work, it's always next to clay or mud, and it helps me to be like a ground-footed, I would say. And that gives me a lot of calm in my mind. For me, it has a philosophical meaning for my life, and that's one of the reasons that I also do enjoy to be in touch with it.
Pela superfície do solo, descobrimos rochas que parecem imutáveis desde o início dos tempos. No entanto, por todo o mundo, elas erguem-se, afundam-se, erodem-se e transformam-se para moldar as nossas mais belas paisagens, as nossas culturas mais fascinantes, as nossas crenças mais extraordinárias. As rochas influenciam a forma como olhamos o horizonte, condicionam a vida animal e vegetal e tecem ligações misteriosas entre o infinito e o microscópico, entre a ciência e o sagrado. Mas o mundo mineral só pode ser plenamente apreciado por aqueles que sabem vê-lo como mais do que apenas um monte de pedras. Investigadores e curiosos de todo o mundo dedicam as vidas ao seu estudo e revelam-nos as suas descobertas fascinantes. Convidamo-vos a juntarem-se a eles ao revelarmos os segredos das rochas. Existe uma particularmente espantosa. Mole e frágil quando seca, fica maleável em contacto com a água e pode solidificar de forma irreversível sob a ação do fogo. Influencia a vida como nenhuma outra graças à sua capacidade de troca. Transformou o rumo da história desde que o homem a descobriu. Essa rocha é a argila. É na Índia, no Ganges, um dos rios mais sagrados do planeta, que a nossa volta ao mundo da argila começa. O biólogo Saurav Pol e o seu assistente sondam diariamente as águas turvas do rio para tentarem compreender que relação alimenta a vida, a paisagem e a argila.
You know, there are like small particles, like very small particles. They have eroded probably like thousands of years back in the Himalayas, and they get picked up by the water, transported to the Ganges here. And when there is an interface of the fresh water and the salt water, they get like stick together slowly, and that's how you finding this mud. That's how, like thousands and millions of years, you can see the entire delta of this Ganges actually formed. Yeah.
Ao formar o delta do Ganges, as partículas de argila deram origem a um verdadeiro ecossistema, semilíquido e semissólido. As espécies adaptaram-se a ele e é a influência deste ambiente argiloso nos seres vivos que Saurav Pol procura documentar.
Okay. Salinity 10.78.
Temperature?
21.8.
Then pH?
8.12. The turbidity of this water has a lot to play with how the different animals live there. Because when the water is very turbid, the light does not penetrate inside. So as a result, many tiny fish can just escape from their predators. আছে প্ল্যাঙ্কটন তো অনেক কপিপডস রয়েছে, কপিপডসের মধ্যে কিছু সাইক্লোপডস রয়েছে, ইকথিওপ্ল্যাঙ্কটনস তো এখানে আছে দেখছি. It's the thing that's sort of, yeah, like the nutrients that is put inside. It's a good sample. In a way, that's the clay here plays a larger role. How the animal kingdom you see over here running and how it is structured, or like in the different levels, how it is interacting with each other. And yeah, the clay here that you see, it's not exactly what you see actually.
যে ধরনের গবি এবং কাঁকড়াগুলোকে পাওয়া যায় তারা খুবই একটা অ্যাডাপ্টেড পরিবেশের মধ্যে থাকে। এদেরকে দেখা যায় যে সামনের যে ডরসাল পাখনাটা এখানে রয়েছে আর সামনের যে ফ্রন্টাল পাখনাগুলো রয়েছে, ফ্রন্টাল পাখনাটা একটু ডেভেলপড হয়ে লিম্বের মতো হয়েছে, যাতে কাদাতে এরাকে চড়ে চড়ে যেতে পারে। শুধু জলে যদি থাকতো, একটু জল থেকে উঠে যাবে, তখন সঙ্গে সঙ্গে বডিটা, এদের স্কিনটা ড্রাই হয়ে যাবে। ড্রাই হয়ে গেলে এরা আর বাঁচতে পারবে না। প্রথমে মাটিটাকে এরা মুখের মধ্যে নিয়ে নেয়, তারপর খাবারটাকে ছেঁকে দিয়ে। এই স্পিসিসটা নিজে থেকে কোনো গর্ত খুলতে পারে না। এরা কি করে, সাধারণত এই স্পিসিসগুলো প্রচুর গর্ত খুলতে পারে মাটিতে। আর এরা গিয়ে সেই টাইমে ওদের যে ব্রিডিং গ্রাউন্ডের যে গর্তটা করা আছে কাঁকড়ার জন্য, তখন মাছ কিপারগুলো সেখানে গিয়ে ডিমটা দেয়। যখন ওই ক্র্যাবগুলো গর্তটা খুলে রাখে, ম্যানগ্রোভসের ম্যাক্সিমাম সিড হচ্ছে ভেসে যায়। এভাবে ম্যানগ্রোভ, মাছ কিপার, ক্র্যাব, সয়েল প্রত্যেকটা ইন্টাররিলেশন একটা কন্টিনিউ চলতে থাকে। একটাকে ছাড়া কোনোদিন টিকতে পারবে না।
This is one of the many mangrove species that you see in the Indian Sundarbans. It's the Avicennia, and it has a larger role to play in terms of the entire ecosystem. Why? From their birth, they float and they settle down in some other places where their root starts to gather clay surrounding them. And I'm not talking about one single plant, I'm talking about millions and millions of them. Okay? And that's how you can see the mud flat that grows bigger and larger. So in a sense, if you think the beginning of these sort of mud flats and how this land mass is actually formed, the entire so these sort of mangrove plants have a larger role in terms of its shaping. And the formation of land can only come with the clay. The clay has a very large role to play in terms of these mangrove ecosystems. It's the initiation.
Assim, a vida pode instalar-se nestas ilhas. E os homens e mulheres que vivem nesta região parecem estar em sintonia com os elementos, a ponto de já não sabermos se é o homem que molda a argila ou a argila que molda o homem. Em toda a região da Bacia de Bengala, a água e a argila parecem estar em harmonia, até nas cidades. Aqui, todas as manhãs, abençoa-se Ganga, a deusa do Ganges, por ter descido à terra para lavar os pecados dos homens. A cidade de Calcutá assenta em estratos de argila com perto de 60 metros de espessura em alguns pontos. E todos parecem ter-se esquecido disso, ou quase todos. No bairro de Kumartuli, em Calcutá, desde que há memória que os homens sempre trabalharam a argila. Aqui, centenas de ceramistas vão criar durante vários meses, no mínimo 10.000 estátuas, essencialmente à imagem de Sarasvati, deusa do conhecimento e das artes. Com as mãos, dão corpo à argila para contar a origem do mundo. Com os pés, misturam-na com a água para revelar as suas propriedades. Sonatol Gelo é um dos mestres na matéria.
আমাদের এই যে কোনো মাটিতে আর বেশি শক্ত মাটি হলে একটু বেশি জল লাগে আর একটু কম মাটি হলে একটু কম জল লাগে আর মাটিতে যখন জল দিতে দিতে একটুখানি বেশি হয়ে গেল মাটির মধ্যে আমরা দেওয়ালে ঘাই দিয়ে দিই মাটিটা আমার মতন করে আমি কাজ করা শুরু করি
A argila que Sonatol trabalha provém do rio Ganges, mas diz a lenda que a argila é recolhida junto das portas dos bordéis da cidade. Crê-se que os clientes, ao limparem os pés à entrada, abandonam aí a sua pureza, simbolizada pela argila. Já ninguém no bairro acredita nesta história, mas a relação que liga Sonatol à argila continua a ser, apesar de tudo, peculiar. Para ele, a argila é apenas matéria. É uma matriz.
মাটির সাথে আমার সম্পর্ক নিজে ফ্যামিলির মতন নিজে ফ্যামিলির সাথে এত সময় কাটি না আমরা মাটির সাথে সবসময় মাটি ঘাঁটাঘাঁটি করি তাদের মধ্যে আমরা একটা স্নেহ মমতা ভালোবাসা আমরা মাটির মধ্যে পেয়ে যাই মাটি না ঘাঁটলে একদিন মনে হয় যে আমি কিছু করিনি এইভাবে মনে হয় যেহেতু আমরা মাটির কাজ করি খাচ্ছি সংসার চালাচ্ছি তো আমি বলেছিলাম যে মা আমাদেরকে জন্ম দিয়ে আমার যত্ন নিয়েছিল একটা শিশুকে কীভাবে বড় করতে হয় তো সন্তান হয়ে কি তো আমাকে তৈরি করছিল আমরা সন্তান হয়ে এটা মার করছি এটা আমাদের খুব দারুণ লাগে আর খুব খুশিও লাগে যে আমার মাকে আমি সাজাচ্ছি আমার মা আমাকে সাজানোর কথা আমি মাকে সাজাচ্ছি এটা আমার কাছে খুব খুশি মানে বহুত ভালো লেগেছিল আমি বলেছিলাম তো মানে সৌন্দর্য অসুন্দর মধ্যে এটা তফাৎ আছে না সেই সৌন্দর্য করার জন্য কিভাবে কোথায় কি দিলে ভালো লাগবে সেই চেষ্টা করি আর মনে মাথার মধ্যে থাকে সেই কথাটা কিভাবে কি করব কোথায় কি দিলে হাসি লাগবে ভালো লাগবে মানুষে ভালোবাসবে থেকে মানে কষ্টের কাজ খুব মানে ঠান্ডা প্রিয় হয়ে শান্তশিষ্ট চোখ আঁকতে হয় তখন চোখ আঁকার সময় কোনো ডিস্টার্ব যখন আমরা চোখটা আঁকি তখন আমরা মনে করি ভগবান আমাদের এসে গেছে তো কয়টা ঠাকুর হচ্ছে তখন দা
আমাদের 20-25টা হচ্ছে
তো 20-25টা কবে ডেলিভারি আছে
ডেলিভারি পুজোর 2-3 দিন আগে থেকেই ডেলিভারি আছে
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা যে সব ঠাকুর কলকাতার মধ্যে যাচ্ছে
হ্যাঁ কলকাতার মধ্যেই যাচ্ছে একটা ঠাকুর মাত্র লন্ডনে যাচ্ছে
ও বাইরে বাইরে যাচ্ছে ঠাকুর
বাইরে যাচ্ছে একটা ঠাকুর যাচ্ছে প্লেনে যাবে
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা তো রং ফং কবে শুরু হবে
এই আজকে থেকেই শুরু হবে
আচ্ছা কাজ ফিনিশিং দিকে আগাচ্ছে
হ্যাঁ এগিয়ে যাচ্ছে কাজের
আচ্ছা
No bairro de Kumartuli, na Índia, os homens esculpem ídolos. Em inúmeras religiões do mundo, o homem terá mesmo nascido da argila. Na Universidade de Poitiers, na França, investigadores de geociência têm de ver para crer. Baptiste Dazas é um deles. A argila é o seu objeto de investigação. Explora a estrutura desta rocha para compreender melhor a sua natureza maleável e as suas interações com o ambiente.
Alors là, on a un échantillon de roche qui pourrait servir à faire une poterie. Donc là, si je zoome un petit peu avec le microscope, on va voir les particules qui composent la roche. Là, maintenant, je suis à 100 microns, un dixième de millimètre. Et là, je vois qu'à mesure où je zoome, je tombe, par exemple, sur un quartz. Alors le quartz, c'est très connu, c'est le sable sur lequel on marche sur la plage. Et là où on voit pourquoi est-ce qu'on a appelé cette roche argile, c'est lorsqu'on va zoomer ici dans la matière. On va commencer à observer ici ces empilements de feuillets. Et c'est ces minéraux-là qui sont réellement les argiles. Alors c'est des empilements qu'on pourrait comparer un petit peu à comme un paquet de feuilles A4 ou un paquet de jeux de cartes ici, où en fait on va pouvoir assez facilement venir désolidariser un feuillet de l'autre. Alors ce qui est important, et ce qu'on voit ici, et ce qu'on peut commencer à comprendre, c'est que pour notre potier, eh ben, ça va être pratique de travailler ce matériau, parce que de 1, le matériau est facile à travailler, justement grâce au mouvement des feuillets les uns sur les autres qui va donner un côté malléable à son matériau. Et en plus, comme le matériau est très fin, il va pouvoir avoir un niveau de détail extrêmement précis qui est de l'ordre de la grandeur des particules qui composent la poterie. S'il faisait une poterie avec des grains qui font 1 mm, il ne pourra jamais avoir un détail qui est en dessous d'1 mm. Là, il a des particules qui font de l'ordre du micron. Donc il peut faire et avoir un niveau de détail dans sa poterie qui est très important. À présent, imaginez si on avait un cube d'1 centimètre cube d'argile pure, si on pouvait dérouler ce cube et toutes les plaquettes qui composent le cube, ça ferait une surface quasiment d'un terrain de rugby. Et ça, c'est des surfaces qui sont accessibles à l'eau et qui sont accessibles aux éléments. C'est les minéraux qui ont quasiment les surfaces d'échange les plus importantes qu'on connaisse. Et donc, dès qu'on va avoir quelque chose qui provient de l'atmosphère et qui va atteindre le sous-sol, à ce moment-là, il va passer au contact fondamentalement de ces minéraux qui ont des capacités d'échange et des capacités tout simplement d'interagir dynamiquement avec l'eau et également avec la vie. Forcément, il y a des roches qui vont mettre des centaines de millions d'années à remonter à la surface par différents processus. L'argile, elle, se formant par érosion en subsurface, c'est par essence quelque chose qui est tout de suite au contact du vivant.
A argila está presente por todo o lado na superfície da Terra, numa zona que se situa entre o subsolo e a atmosfera. Ocorre em qualquer lugar onde um terreno se forma por erosão ou desagregação da rocha-mãe. Os cientistas apelidam essa zona de zona crítica. Aí, a argila apenas marca presença. Possui o poder incrível de armazenar, transportar e redistribuir nutrimento para os seres vivos. É na região de PEDIMOS, nos Estados Unidos, que os investigadores exploram o papel central das argilas e da zona crítica na grande história da vida.
Trees, rocks, microbes, rivers, the air we breathe. This is the critical zone. The critical zone, we embrace this treetop all the way down to the deepest groundwater. But on the surface of the Earth, it is a thin layer. A very thin layer, a very delicate layer. We can call it the skin of the Earth, and it is very fragile. The Piedmont, where we are sitting, below its surface is one of the most exciting critical zones of all. Because not only is it not explored well, but we have this clay layer in the soils.
Daniel Richter, pedólogo na Universidade de Duke, na Carolina do Norte, é um dos grandes especialistas mundiais em argila. Interessa-se pelo papel central que esta desempenha na zona crítica.
So here we have a soil excavated 3 meters deep, and we really see how important roots are and how prominent roots are. They're preferentially rooting with the clay. And they're there with the clay because that's basically where the water is, but also the 15 nutrients that plants need to grow. Most of that water and most of those nutrients are held down below by the clays, which are colored here orange. Clays are like magnets of negative charge. And so negatives attract positives. Many of the nutrients are positively charged. And so the magnets of the clays hold on to quite a few nutrients. Clays are reservoirs, and particularly in the dry time of the year. So what do the roots do to get their positive nutrients? They release an acid. And what does that acid do? It breaks down the clays. It actually dissolves the clays, releasing nutrients. And so it's an incredible process. One would want to say no clay, no forest.
Mas na floresta de Piedmont também acontece o contrário. Sem floresta não há argila, pois esta não se forma sempre através da erosão das montanhas ou da erosão nos deltas. Por vezes forma-se nas profundezas da terra, graças ao apoio das árvores.
In the Piedmont here, clays are born. They are formed in the critical zone by the weathering of the primary rock. By weathering, we mean the dissolution, the disintegration, the physical stresses that break the rocks up into blocks, and then the acids that trees produce, that microbes produce, that dissolve the primary minerals, that in the end, one of the ultimate products are clays. They are totally biogeochemical products. They are products of the biology.
O processo de formação das argilas é complexo. Há 40 anos que Daniel Richter procura descobrir o seu segredo, ora no fundo de um buraco, ora na base de uma encosta. Interessa-lhe particularmente compreender o percurso das argilas desde as profundezas até à superfície.
Oh, here's a good example. Oh my goodness, look at that. What do you see?
The rock can be very easy to break. This is certainly rock going to clay.
And so clay is forming. So we definitely got intensive weathering even at 6 meters, 8 meters below the surface of the soil. Amazing. So the critical zone is a clay factory.
Yes, it is.
Oh, man.
No solo de todas as florestas do mundo, as árvores contribuem para desagregar a rocha-mãe. Depois são necessários milhares de anos para que as partículas de argila alcancem a superfície, graças às forças geológicas. Misturam-se então com a matéria orgânica para formar o solo das florestas. Aí vão interagir não só com as árvores, mas com os restantes seres vivos. E tudo isso acontece longe dos olhares, sob os nossos pés.
The forest has blanketed the soil surface with litter, organic matter. Earthworms, bacteria, fungi are making this organic matter into a most remarkable humus, a very important humus layer. But then, immediately below lies the mineral domain, the mineral world. And once this organic matter meets the clay surfaces and that large surface area of the clays, they form a miraculous union between the two. And this is the humic clay substance that is so important to the functioning of a forest. Clays. That's the charismatic character in the land use systems. We could argue that clays are very much alive in a certain way because they're dynamic through time and they interact with microbes, with roots, with people. It's a very exciting thing to be able to go through life and kind of every once in a while appreciate those invisible things. And you have to conclude that the world is a magnificent place, far more magnificent even than we can imagine. And part of that is tied to this paradox of clay being so small and yet having global significance.
A pele da terra, a zona crítica, pode estar desnuda, privada do seu coberto vegetal, agredida. As argilas ficam então entregues às intempéries e são levadas pelo escoamento superficial das águas ou pelo vento para outros locais. Apesar das aparências, é o que acontece na Namíbia. Aí, em pleno deserto, as chuvas fortes dão por vezes origem a verdadeiros rios que transportam a argila e os sedimentos para o coração das dunas. Um sedimentólogo interessa-se por este fenómeno curioso que desconcerta a vida. Trata-se de Roger Swart.
Ephemeral rivers just run during the rainy season after big storms. It's actually amazing how much water accumulates in these rivers very quickly. And we'd been flowing very fast, so it was bringing sand down at that stage, but with mud. It gets taken down with the river, and eventually it gets into an area where there are dunes, and the river cannot flow very strongly anymore. It's very difficult for the river to flow strongly through that area, so it loses its capacity to carry sediment, and the muds all settle out in that final sort of phase, the clay deposits. You can see how this is like, it's all very flat laminated, but the bulk of this is sand and then, or fine sand. Right on the top here we have preserved this beautiful little clay layer. In places this can actually become quite thick. It's something that we only started to realize recently is how important these ephemeral rivers are in bringing particularly clay downstream.
Em pleno deserto, para alguém inexperiente, o essencial é invisível aos olhos. Mas para Roger Swart, os rios efêmeros encerram bem mais que camadas de areia e de argila. Encerram inúmeros minerais essenciais para o desenvolvimento da vida. Estão ali, na zona crítica, na superfície dos rios efêmeros. Mas nesta região do mundo, as condições climáticas não são favoráveis à existência de vida. No entanto, na região do Dead Valley, que significa pântano morto em africândar, a vida tentou existir. Nasceram aí acácias durante vários anos. Mas com a areia a enterrar progressivamente o rio sem água, acabaram por morrer e depois queimar ao sol. Porém, o planeta Terra possui recursos inimagináveis.
In winter, after it's dried up, this dust and clay is now available for being retransported. The mineral is quite platy, so when it gets picked up by the wind, it almost floats in the wind and can be carried many hundreds of kilometers. Some of the satellite images of dust off Namibia, we can see it being carried at least 800 kilometers away. Wind is really important in helping the clay to move further on and giving it the opportunity to move to the oceans where it gets deposited. The clay particles are important because they contain a lot of minerals within them, including iron, nitrogen, phosphorus in them. So they're important in bringing energy and nutrients to the ocean. These big dust storms carrying nutrients out into the oceans are important because the oceans are relatively deficient in iron.
So they need iron brought in from the continents, and the iron can actually stimulate the microorganisms in the ocean, particularly plankton and algae like diatoms, microbial life, and they're the basis of the food chain that's around us these days.
That is sort of the paradox in a way, is that the desert provides life to the sea.
So it's great to see these dust plumes because it just shows that the Earth is alive and working well, you know, that it's operational, that these processes are going on. It's actually a very powerful message that we get from the plumes that we see.
A areia é demasiado pesada para percorrer distâncias longas, mas a argila por vezes consegue atravessar o oceano. As argilas do Saara, provenientes do enorme lago que outrora cobria a região, são frequentemente levadas até a América do Sul. Seriam assim 27 milhões de toneladas de poeira e 22 toneladas de nutrimento que atravessariam o Oceano Atlântico a cada ano, contribuindo dessa forma para fertilizar a maior floresta do mundo, a floresta amazónica. Por muito surpreendente que possa parecer, as argilas não se contentam em alimentar as árvores. Certos animais são, por vezes, geófagos. Tratam-se, purificam-se, completam o seu aporte de minerais ingerindo argila. Porém, é à Namíbia que é preciso regressar, à savana de Kaokoland, para descobrir as relações peculiares que seres vivos minúsculos mantêm com a argila. E o especialista na matéria é Eugène Marais, entomólogo. Está à procura de termiteiras antigas para analisar os seus minerais argilosos.
One of the interesting things about termites is how easy it is for them to find clay, even in an area like this that is mostly sand. The termites are engineers. They can go very, very deep, at 30, 40-meter depths below the surface to find clay. Part of the reason why I'm here is to look at what is the minerals content of the mounds. It's very important. Quite often the termite mounds has got rare minerals that is not very common in the environment. So what you will find is the elephants will go to termite mounds and they will break them open and they will eat the earth because there's phosphorus in it in order to do it. And not only elephants, other animals too, and also humans. The interesting thing about clay is the properties that it has. There's certain very specific things that you only find in clay that you don't find in other minerals. And the termites utilize these properties of clay. When there's a lot of clay, they can actually build a very, very nice tower, and it becomes very strong because as the clay dries out, because that is one of the very, very good properties of clay, as it dries out and it warms up, it becomes extremely strong. It's like rocks because you can make a wall with it and you can make a defensive structure with it because when it dries, then it defends it. If you drive into a termite mound with the car is going to be injured, not the termite mound. But it is also like a sponge to carry water into the nest. So from the termite perspective, or perhaps even the termite scientist perspective, what clay is it's everything revolves around it. It's the currency of life.
O que Eugène Marais descobriu é o papel da torre, da seta que se eleva acima do solo e que as térmitas moldam como verdadeiras artesãs.
The termites build this spire to harness wind energy. It works like your human lungs. They use the wind, the pressure of the wind differential to change the balance of air inside all the time, and it's very, very effective. They can exchange all the air within the colony in 2 minutes. This mound, it's a superorganism. Termite mounds is a real society because every individual has got a very, very definite function and very definite job. And they work, somehow they work together without anybody thinking. The big workers is usually the ones that carries the heavy materials, and the small workers is the ones that does the final touches, the specialists and the people that does the hard labor. We have got the big soldiers. Look at how it's now wanting to bite me. You don't like me disturbing you, huh? So now you want to bite me, destroying your nest. What we have here is now the nest, the heart of the colony. This is where all the termites, most of the activity is there, the city, and the rest is just the building above it, the chimney. And that is also where they use the best material, the most valuable materials, the termite gold, the clay, and they all harvest the clay to build in there. And because they can use all the properties of clay, it's very pliable, very elastic, but at the same time easy to shape and to form. But they're very hard workers. They're repairing it very quickly. They can move as much as 200 kilograms in a day. So this disturbance that we made is not really having a big effect on the termites. By tonight, everything will be closed up and the colony will be fully repaired.
Os povos da região compreenderam bem a relação que liga as térmitas ao mundo mineral. É na base dos montículos que as mulheres Himba se abastecem de argila. Quando estão grávidas, consomem-na para satisfazer as necessidades de minerais para o desenvolvimento do feto. Também a usam para construir as paredes das suas cubatas. Desde tempos imemoriais que a argila acompanha o homem na sua evolução. Foi em tábuas de argila que começou a escrever. Foi em vasos de argila que conservou os seus alimentos. Foi moldando a argila que se sedentarizou. Depois, um dia, colocou a argila num forno e esta transformou-se. Na Índia, na região de Kulpi, a argila é recolhida nas margens do Ganges, como se faz praticamente há séculos, para produzir tijolos. Neste vale, que parece mais um formigueiro que uma termiteira, vivem centenas de famílias que moldam, confeccionam e cosem a argila para a tornar mais sólida. Ao longo dos séculos, o tamanho deste bloco de argila adaptou-se ao corpo do homem para ser mais fácil de erguer. Mas para Sailin Pramanik, contramestre tijoleiro, o tijolo é bem mais que um bloco de argila.
এই মমতার ব্রিগেডের সাথে আমার যে সম্পর্ক মানে আজ বাংলাদেশের নারীর সম্পর্ক এসে গেছে, সেই জিনিসটা দেখলে আমাকে খুব খুশি লাগে। ওই মাটিটাকে আমরা লেবার দিয়ে কেটে বা এখন হচ্ছে টেকনিক্যালি বিভিন্ন ওই জেসিবি হয়েছে, ওটা নিয়ে এক জায়গায় জড়ো করা হয় আর কি। জড়ো করে সেটাকে একটা স্ট্যাক করে আবার ডিসেম্বর মাসের দিকে লেবারটা এসে আবার ইট কাটা শুরু হয়ে যায় আর কি। এই জানুয়ারি থেকে ইট পোড়ার শুরু হয়, জানুয়ারি থেকে ফেব্রুয়ারি মার্চ, এই 3 মাসটাই ওখানে কাজটা বেশি চলে আর কি।
A argila, a água, o sol, cada um tem o seu papel neste processo que quase parece alquimia. O segredo de um bom tijolo depende da capacidade dos homens para pôr o fogo a andar, como dizem. E manter o forno a uma boa temperatura. Ao cozer, as lâminas da estrutura interna da argila partem-se e as partículas fundem-se. A argila cristaliza, morre de certa forma, e perde as propriedades plásticas para ressuscitar num novo material, o tijolo.
যে যদি আমরা মানে মানব সভ্যতার প্রথম দিকেই চলে যাই, হ্যাঁ, এই মানব সভ্যতার প্রথমে কিন্তু এই যে মাটি পুড়িয়ে কিন্তু মানে সভ্যতা শুরু। যখনই মাটিটাকে আদিম আমাদের বংশধর আমরা তাদের থেকে, তারা ওই মাটি পুড়িয়ে অস্ত্র হিসেবে ব্যবহার করেছে। আস্তে আস্তে যখন উন্নতি হয়েছে তখন মাটি পুড়িয়ে একটা ঝালা করে হরপ্পা মহেঞ্জোদারো শিল্প গড়ে উঠেছে, সেখানেও মাটি পোড়া ইটের দেখাচ্ছে। বিভিন্ন মন্দির মানে সেখানেও আমরা দেখতে পাই যে পোড়া মাটির মন্দির। আজকের আমাদের হচ্ছে কি এই ইট মাটি মানে একটা মাটিটাকে পুড়িয়ে যে ইট করে ইট শিল্পই হচ্ছে কি আস্তে আস্তে আমরা দেখা যাচ্ছে মানে সারা পৃথিবীকে এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাচ্ছে। মাটিটাকে তাদের মানে আমাদের বাসস্থান তৈরি হচ্ছে, বা অনেক কল কারখানা ইত্যাদি এই মাটির দিয়েই কিন্তু তার ভিতটা তৈরি করা হচ্ছে। এই হচ্ছে কি টাকা মাটির মধ্যে আমরা বুঝছি এখন, হ্যাঁ সত্যি করে টাকার চেয়েও মাটির দামটা আমাদের কাছে বেশি এখন। যে মানুষের যে জীবিকা টোটাল যে আপনার লোকেশন সবাই কিন্তু কম বেশি ডাইরেক্ট ইনডাইরেক্ট সবই হচ্ছে কি এই ইটভাটার ওপর নির্ভরশীল, বুঝলেন তো। সেখানে শিক্ষিত অর্ধশিক্ষিত সবাই। মাটির সাথে আমরা গ্রাম বাংলার মানুষ, গ্রাম বাংলার ছেলে, মাটির সাথে সবসময় আমাদের ছোটোর থেকে মানে সম্পর্ক। আমরা মাটিতে খেলাধুলা করেছি, বুঝলেন তো। মাটি হচ্ছে কি সাঁতার বলুন, জল কাদা এইভাবে হচ্ছে কি আমরা আর আস্তে সেই মানে ছোটোর থেকে এখন সেই মাটিতেই আমি মানে আমার কর্মটাও মাটির মধ্যেই চলে এসেছে আর কি। যেহেতু বিগ ফিল্ড সবসময় হচ্ছে কি মানে মাটি দিয়েই এমন হয়তো দেখা যাচ্ছে আমার সামনে হয়তো কোনো দিন ঘুমিয়ে সামনে যে কোনো ইটই কোনো মানে ইটের মানে সবসময় চিন্তাভাবনা ইট। ধরুন আজকে আমি এখন থেকে প্রায় 25-26 বছর কাজ করছি, হ্যাঁ, আর এছাড়া এটাই আমার শেষ হবে, কিন্তু মানে এটাই আমার মানে জীবিকা, যদি পাই সেই সবাই করে যাচ্ছি। এখন জীবন চলছে।
लोग का दिमाग नहीं है, नीचे मारने बोलता है तो ऊपर मार के बोलता है।
No vale de Kulpi, na Índia, a vida segue o ritmo do tijolo. No entanto, cada porção de argila retirada das margens do Ganges, cada tonelada de carvão necessária para a cozer, tem um preço para o ambiente. A indústria do tijolo é uma das mais poluentes do país. Mas do outro lado do mundo, nos Estados Unidos, nas margens do rio Ohio, Martin Pentrack, especialista em argilas, debruça-se sobre a sua capacidade para travar os problemas ambientais do planeta. Está convencido que, graças às argilas, pode solucionar a poluição causada pelos nitratos.
When I say to people that I'm trying to save the world by clays, they think I'm crazy. People think that is utopia, but I'm very, very optimistic because I see the power of the clay, how they can filter, how they can clean, or how they can destroy pollutants like nitrates.
Martin Pentrack é geoquímico no Instituto de Investigação da Universidade do Illinois. É um dos maiores especialistas em argila. Sabe interpretá-la como ninguém.
Clays for somebody can be just dust, but for me as a scientist, clay mineralogist, I can see in this material very big power, very great power. I think clays from somehow they're alive because they are changing. They are changing not only just by physically, but also chemically they change. And I can play with clay. I can play not only just between my fingers, but also I can play with them like I can modify, I can change their properties. I can change them into something better.
Martin precisa de transformar as argilas porque no seu estado natural não atraem nitratos. Têm até tendência a rejeitá-los, mas isso pouco importa. Martin pensa ter encontrado a solução.
Clay particles are repulsing the nitrates because they are negatively charged as well as nitrates are negatively charged. They are like the same magnets, same poles of magnets, and they are not attracted. We can deal with this by using positively charged polymer, which is applied to the clay, and clay particles are changed to the positive charge particles. And then by this application, we are changing particle polarity to the positive. And now we got positively charged clay particles. Positively charged particles are absorbing nitrates into their structure and never released again. My point is to prepare natural filtration system from clay minerals and to implement this filtration system into the existing water treatment plant. One day, I am very, very promising that my filtration system will be installed and help to clean rivers. I'm sure that we cannot clean all waters, rivers overnight because it's huge pollution around the world. But we need to start somewhere. In this water cylinder, I can see the future. Our future is in the clays, because the clays will reconciliate humans with the nature. We need to find the magic in the clays. We need to find all properties what the clays can provide. Capability to heal, to remediate, to clean pollutants from the waters, from the soils, from the air, because this material is very promising for the future of the human being.
À escala molecular, tal como à escala da zona crítica, Tanto em lama como no estado sólido, a argila, bem como o resto do mundo mineral, é a base do mundo. Uma base firme que tornou o nosso planeta Terra habitável. Graças à água, a argila presta-se a todas as experiências. Sob a ação do fogo, renasce das cinzas, cheia de novas propriedades. A argila acompanha desde sempre o percurso dos seres vivos e molda o mundo e ainda guarda muitos segredos por revelar, para os que saibam contemplá-la e respeitá-la.